The mountains saw you and shook. Floods of water swept by. The sea roared. It lifted its waves high. Habakkuk 3:10. God is more powerful than the elements of the earth that he created. So let's key in on one of them, water. A few days ago, we talked about how God has dominion over the waters. Habakkuk prayed how God was more powerful than the seas, rivers, or storms. Recall that we talked about how God turned the Nile River, into blood, and how it's an illustration of how blood is like water and water is like blood, preserving life as it flows. About how it's actually a forecasting of Jesus, whose blood and water flowed out of him to save us. About how it's Jesus who is the true giver of life that is preserved in the water and in the blood. But let's back up a few steps and consider just the water itself. 3/4 of this planet is covered in water, most of it salty, and life on land can't live in that salt water, just as life in the salt water can't live in land or in fresh water. If you haven't considered it lately, consider that the ratios of salt to fresh water and water to land and how all of life is dependent on water are God-given miracles. The first mention of water is in just the 6th verse of Genesis, way back at the beginning, when God separates ocean and sky on the 2nd day. After that, water is repeatedly mentioned all throughout both Testaments and throughout the ministry of Jesus. It's crucial because it's life. In Africa, many people say water is life and travel or live there, and it quickly becomes apparent how important water is in a place so parched of it and where people go to extraordinary measures to get water. In Africa, girls will carry jerry cans of water across many miles every day just to have barely enough. They do so at great personal risk of assault or even death. So it's no coincidence that people will brave terrible risks to have water and life. It's no coincidence that God gave us the sacrament of baptism using water. He understood the power of something with which we're all universally familiar, to demonstrate how he would wash away our sins with his blood. It's no coincidence that the first public miracle Jesus did was turning water into wine as a blessing at a wedding feast and as a picture of his divine provisions. It's no coincidence that Jesus first revealed himself as Christ to a woman gathering water at Jacob's well, and she was a Samaritan, an enemy. It's no coincidence because that's how God designed life here, giving us water as a picture of himself. Water is life because God is life, because Jesus is life.